everyone, my name is Mira Koponarov and I am your host at Shop Talk Fridays. I'm incredibly honored today to welcome our guest, Lorianne Glassford, or LA, like most of you know her. Today we're going to discuss the magic of experiential economy and functional diversity, and also she's going to share some very exciting news with us, and you will be the first ones to hear it. Who's Lorianne? She's this incredible power and force with this bubbly energy. Every time when she walks into the room, you know something's happening. She was on the retail side for many years, and about 4 years ago, she moved on the landlord side and worked with Oxford Properties. Today, she's doing something new. Not only that, her expendable heart continues to embrace people from different walks of life. So today, we're gonna cover it all. Let's go meet her. Happy Friday, everyone. We are back, and I am super excited, as mentioned, to welcome Lorianne Glassford. Welcome, and you have some very exciting news as well to share with us. We're very privileged to be the first ones to hear them.
Honestly, Mira, first of all, thank you. I mean, I've been a big fan of your work, and the fact that you're having these Friday conversations again and I can be your guest, it's exciting, so thank you. I do have some exciting news. You know, I think everybody in the last 18 months, 2 years, everybody's went through a bit of a transformation. I don't think I'm any different in that regard. But I did a lot of reflecting late last year, over the holidays, right? Like, what do I really want to do? What ignites the fire? What am I really passionate about? Mm-hmm. And then how do I turn that into a business? That was my thought. And I'm excited because that's how I decided to launch the Glassford Group. Really, really excited. So essentially, my focus in reflection in the last few months has just been about how we all need to belong from birth until the end of our life. But belonging means everything. And to me, that's a sense of community. And so I marry that between community and belonging in my career in real estate and retail and hospitality and experience. And it all came together. Mm-hmm. And so when it all came together, then I just lit that match and said, I'm going to do this. So essentially, the Glassford Group will do 3 things. And, you know, we will support and help landlords, developers, and brokers even, mm-hmm. to develop that sense of community by making sure they have the right mix of F&B and entertainment concepts in their assets to make sure that sense of community and belonging happens. Without F&B and entertainment, you don't have community.
Yeah,
you just don't. And so that's the one thing we're doing. The other thing we're doing is we're actually helping food and beverage and entertainment brands help them with their strategy, understand what might make sense for them in a new development, where they're going to go, and we'll offer global assistance in that regard. We've got lots of partners. And at the end of the day, you'll get community when both parties are working really well together. And then, you know, you and I have talked about this one a lot lately, but that's leadership. And it's something that excites me. It gets me energetic, even more energetic than I normally am. And so the Glassford Group will be helping organizations that have already identified that they want to be a culture that puts people first and that has diversity in their leadership team. And I'm not talking just about representation. I'm talking about true leadership in the decision-making powers that be. And we're going to dive very deep and help organizations in that way. I think the other thing in leadership, and again, I could talk for an hour on this, is women in leadership and how, you know, why is the term women inserted in leadership? Can't we just say leadership mm-hmm. instead of women in leadership? And so I just think there's a lot of work to be done. I've done a lot of looking inside, a lot of learning. I might be a woman, but I'm also very well aware of my privilege. And so I think altogether the 3 pillars that the Glassford Group is going to focus on, there is this thread of belonging, community, and experience. And so that's what I'm most excited for.
which in turn will bring success and longevity for the brands that you support, because just matching a use with an empty space doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be successful. We've seen those stores open, big bang, and 3 years later they're all gone.
Well, and so I'm okay. So you're going to go there. It's a great segue, because for me, and anyone that knows me, I focus on operations. But operations is really experience. So whether you're opening up a car dealership, or you're opening up a restaurant or a retailer or a mall or a development, that day, everything's geared on that day. And there's support from your other brands, or your other locations, and all the big wigs are there, and there's a ribbon cutting ceremony. But after that happens, and everybody goes back into their places, it is the operator on the ground, be it the chef, the manager, the director, the sales, it is the people on the ground that are then responsible for delivering the experience. Right? And so for me,
community, right?
That's the community. The community is not the ribbon cutting ceremony and look at the opening event and it's all over social media. The community is every day delivering on experience. Yeah.
So that kind of brings us to the next question I really wanted to ask you, because you're kind of an expert in it, and you and I both resonate with the experiential and bringing experience to our clients in different settings.
Yeah.
So with your vast experience in the food and beverage and in general retail, being on the landlord side and on the tenant side, where do you see retail succeeding? Like, how is experience going to play a role in the future strategies?
It's going to be the differentiator. I mean, to me, all you have to do is look right now at what's happening with the metaverse. Let's talk about experience. And anyone wanting to really connect with their customers, we're going to have to jump on board in that atmosphere. And I know it's technology and it's scary for a lot of smaller players, but it's essential. So I think the next jump, it won't take 5 years to get there. It won't. I know it's scary, the metaverse, and I think all of us need to deep dive and learn more about it, but I think that's going to happen. The pivoting that has already happened in the business, forced by mandated closures and supply chain struggles and, capital, no one's got capital. Whether it's a landlord or a developer or a brand, how you spend your money and who you invest it with and how you invest it has so many eyes on it right now. And so I think, coupled with all the regulations that have been forced upon the industries, you look at the streaming and how that's had an effect on entertainment, you look at the closures and third-party delivery services that the food groups have had to pivot to. There's grocery in restaurant, there's restaurant in grocery. There's so much change that's already happened. So I think we've transformed a lot just to survive.
So do you think it's strictly technology, or kind of marrying the experience from the technology with the brick and mortar space that will bring that next level experience?
I do. I don't think brick and mortar is going anywhere, but I think it's just evolving. And anyone that is strictly in bricks and mortar, that's gonna be a tough haul. It really is. But when you combine the e-commerce and the metaverse and engage different ways of engaging with your customer, that continual evolving, the customer's going to demand that you continually evolve. I think that's key.
Yeah, we're almost like, how we speak of the buyer's market and the seller's market?
Right.
We have the exact same trend in retail.
100%.
So we're in the buyer's market at the moment.
Yeah, no, we are. And I started my career at 14 in retail. And so for me, it's just full circle. I went from retail to fashion to sport retailing to telecommunications to restaurant, tenant side, landlord side. For me, it's always been about the experience, community, and belonging, right? So yeah, there's lots that's going to happen.
Well, we're both passionate about retail, but as you said, it's all a big community. Business is very personal at the same time. It's huge nowadays to talk about diversity, equity. I think also a lot of people are kind of confused. What is the diversity? What is the equity? Where do we draw the line?
Right.
And I'm just going to open up with a story that a friend of mine told me, which started almost like a joke and then it transitioned into this serious conversation. Something I call functional diversity. So we're not just talking about diversity, so we can have it as part of our KPIs, so we have the proper mix of people on our website and have X number of women or people of color in our management team. But he was telling me the story about their LGBT committee that they had to organize. Nobody wanted to chair it. He got voluntold. And at the end, the people that were to be represented didn't want to be part of this committee because they didn't want to be singled out. They already felt as part of the majority. So giving them the spotlight didn't feel comfortable. I know you're huge on that. Not just about women, not just about different cultural backgrounds, but let's talk a little bit about the functional diversity because this is something you would also, the Glassford Group will coach leaders and assist them in building their policies.
Yeah, no, thank you, first of all, for that. First of all, I don't know where you came up with the term functional diversity, but I think that's
Being in marketing.
bang on.
Yeah.
That's right, that's your marketing. So I've wrestled a lot with how can I insert myself in a meaningful way while still learning. For social justice, whether it's equality, human rights, diversity, inclusivity, equity, belonging. And for me, I know we can't do everything, but doing nothing's just not an option. Yeah. And so I'm diving deep into this area. And I think that I'm very encouraged by the number of companies and individuals who are really taking it seriously. But I would also say, taking it seriously because in some cases they're being forced to. They're being forced to take it seriously. So there's two things you said that really resonated with me. You said you were talking about the actual group and being voluntold. I want to talk just a very short bit about who's doing the work. Because, and Harvard Business Review has published an article on this that supports this view, which is that the people that are doing the work in a company to be more diverse and inclusive happen to be the already underrepresented in those companies. Primarily, those groups, committees, are made up of those that are already underrepresented. So they're made up of women, people of color, different genders, different races, but there's not a lot of people involved that represent the majority of the company. So here's an example, which to me is to task the underrepresented to teach the fully represented, it's backwards. It's just backwards. So I was talking with a business owner not too long ago, a client, and I praised him for getting involved and really wanting to turn around his company, right? It is going to fundamentally change, and it already is, the way we're going to do business, who's going to do business, who's going to be able to do business, and I think companies are deciding who to do business with based on their platforms. It's incredible. One of my favorite quotes on this is from Judd Apatow, and he says, and I hope I'm getting this right, he said, when people will hire the same people all the time until the meeting is held to tell them they're no longer allowed to. And I think that says a lot. I think it rests, I think HR in most companies has a really tough job right now. But there has to be a different pool of candidates. I talked to another client about this not too long ago. He said, I just don't know how to do that, LA. And I said, well, if your external recruitment agency or your internal HR is giving you a group of candidates and a pool of candidates to choose from for the interview process, and that pool of candidates, wherever they come from, is not a diverse pool of candidates, you've got to send it back. That's got to go back to the drawing board. So maybe that means you're dealing with the wrong recruitment company. But they work for you. So you have to instill different levels of expectation. It's hard work. It's uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable because I think we also have to realize it has to come from the bottom. Like when you're hiring people, when you're forming your company, don't try to, if you try dealing with it later on,
Yeah.
you create a division. We work with a very talented young model a few weeks ago, and at the age of 20 or just a little over 20, he said, sometimes I feel I'm punished for something I have no fault of. I am a privileged white male, but I don't know why I'm privileged. Just because I'm white, he's like, I'm very open, I have diverse group of friends, yet I'm almost being punished for not being part of that minority. So I think we need to be very careful when we are structuring those policies. We don't alienate a group that already exists in the workforce.
Well, and that was
right?
my point earlier. Let's just put it on the table, okay? If your company is primarily men, or your company is primarily women, if they're primarily one gender, people that are men or identify as men, people who are women identify as women, that group has to be very involved in the diversity changes.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So when you're doing the group or the committee, the most represented has the most work to do. And the people that need to start being uncomfortable are the majority, because the underrepresented, they're already there.
Yeah.
Right?
I really like what you said, and I would like to elaborate a little bit on working with the same people. Being a small business owner and like starting from scratch, as much as it's exciting, brings a lot of pressure, and quite often you have to go and butt into environments where they have worked with the same people. Or do you know how often we get, we have a good marketing company,
Yeah.
and I look at their website or I look at what they're doing, and it's not good, but people were used to doing that. They're almost afraid to exploring something new, something they don't know. And I think to some extent diversity is also that. You almost don't know, how do I deal with that?
Well, and that's, fear.
Fear,
Right?
100%, yeah.
It's fear. It's, I don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
I can't plan. How much money is this going to take? What is the investment I'm going to make? Who am I going to lose on my team? We need to have those frank conversations. It's not about what's going to affect you personally. It's what's going to affect all of us as a race.
Mm-hmm.
We have to look beyond ourselves. And ego and pride are hurtful things. And they stop us from moving forward in many ways. This is just one of them.
So how do we shake the leaders? Because quite often, I like to say we do a lot of strategy as well. And quite often you have somebody who's been with the company for 10, 15 years, and they've been through 4 or 5 CEOs, yet it is the CEO and that leadership group that defines what the rest of the people in that organization will do, how the culture will sway.
Right.
And this is where the decision making needs to come
Well,
from.
I think
How do we
two
shape-
things. I think number one, you're not going to convince anyone to get serious about it unless they already want to get serious about it. So I think at some point, a company, an individual, a brand has to want to change. That's fundamental.
And let's be clear. Change is not your marketing campaign that you're posting on LinkedIn, telling how proud you are of running
No.
this event. It has to be instrumental of how you operate day to day.
I would say a lot of the work
Yeah.
is silent.
Yeah.
A lot of the work doesn't have any posts associated with it, right? But yeah, I think the number one thing is people need to want to change, and then I think you have to involve a series of people that know what they're doing in that space. Bring them on board, listen to them, talk to your underrepresented. What do they need? What do they need to feel like they're going to belong? Then talk to your most represented. What are they most fearful of? What are they afraid of? What do they think is going to happen? And having those conversations, that's where it's all in that pocket of being really uncomfortable. That those conversations need to happen. And this isn't going to change overnight. And this is something we just it's just going to be a part of business.
Mhm.
There's no end date to these conversations. There isn't. There's no end date. So I think, I think you have to want to change, and then you have to engage the people that know what they're doing and can guide you in this business. Yeah.
So it was like you're a WSAB, like it just becomes part of how we operate, right?
It is 100%. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
So we kind of zoom over very important topic. This is a real life Zoom call.
Yeah. Right. Right.
But it all comes down to the same thing. It's like the experience, the community, working together, like moving together towards a common goal.
Yeah.
So where do you see our industry lacking the bravery, the enthusiasm of really moving forward? It's almost like we're there, but
We're
not
stuck?
really. We're stuck.
Okay, so I would say two things. I agree with you on one point, and the other point, I have an alternate view. So enthusiasm, I think, and you're talking about commercial real estate in general, whether it's tenant or landlord developer, I think that there is enthusiasm out there. I mean, the brands I'm speaking to, the companies I'm speaking to, there is an enthusiasm out there. There's an optimism. Maybe it's just because the mandates have been lifted. Maybe because the snow is going to fall or stop falling. But we're in a snowstorm today. But there is optimism out there, and it's highly transactional. Right? There are a lot of transactions happening right now, albeit the capital has been pulled back, or as a brand, where are we going to invest that capital? But I think that the enthusiasm is there. Where do we need the bravery, and how are we going to stay relevant? That's back to technology. Actually, I would bring that back to technology. And the Glassford Group is working with several partners on making sure, like for data, different technology, mapping services, making sure that you can really look at your demographic and how does what you're going to offer in your development, how is that going to align with the customer need? And it's back to experience and community and belonging. I think that there has to be a desire for community. It goes back to ticking a box. You're seeing this even with urban planning. They're re-looking at the amount of park space or art that you have in your. I think it's bigger than that. This everyone's talking about multi-use, right? I need to be multi-use. I need to have alternative uses in my development. But I still bring it back to, if you do not have the right food and beverage and the right entertainment, it's a void. You're not going to be able to deliver. And so it's just as important for us to help the food and beverage brands and the experience brands, whether it's immersive, whether it's small, whether they're large, to be able to partner with the right people, to make the connections. So how do we stay relevant? I think it's technology, and I think it's working on relationships, right?
Which have suffered during COVID.
They have suffered. Yeah. This business is all about relationships and connections. Who do you know? Who can I talk with to get, to connect me with this person? And we have just been disconnected. And so I think the bravery is going to, how do we get back to establishing trust in those relationships? There's been reorganizations.
And trying new things that have emerged in the last 2 years, right?
Absolutely. There's been reorganizations, restructures, a consolidation of number of units that you've had. ERGs, ESG, the social governance. There's been so many changes. Rent relief conversations. Should I expand? Where am I getting my capital from? It's been so much stress. We have to get back to the relationship and the partnerships. That's what we have to get back to, because only then will we build trust, and only when there is trust will things move forward. So I think that's where it's going to take the bravery. We've got to get off that computer and do this more often, right?
See each other. Well, this is where you come in, right? That's why I love the idea how you're channeling all of your experience for simplifying it almost for your clients, right? Like finding that
it's a great way of putting it.
Happy place for them, and taking off the burden, like guiding them on the right path to the right place.
Well, for me, and you're right, because for me, it's, you've known me for a number of years. I don't hold back. when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm deep in my opinions based on experience. It's not based on, it's not based on schooling or education. It's based on my experience, whether it's on the sales floor, in the stock room, in the boardroom, in the restaurant, in the kitchen, with my helmet and the VR on, with my mask at Sleep No More in New York City, wherever I am experiencing experience or actually leading, that is what I'm relying on, and I just want to share it all. I think sharing the secrets, so to say.
Well,
Right.
I also think because you're very truthful. Like we quite often see, and it doesn't matter in the industry, where people would tell their clients whatever the client wants to hear. So why are you hiring consultants? Why are you hiring experts in their domains if you just want them to reconfirm what you're saying? So
Yeah.
I think one of your best features is that you could be truthful and still make it work and show them why it's
Thank you.
working, right? So I think this is very, very important, and I'm pretty sure you're going to be very successful.
Thank you. It's equally exciting and terrifying at the same time. But I truly believe, and this is the founding principle with the Glassford Group, which is those that focus on experience will always outperform.
Mhm.
Always.
Well, I think this is a way to end it. It's awesome.
Already?
Very positive. We'll make sure to have you again. Thank you so much.
It's been great.
Enjoy
Been
your
great.
weekend, everybody.
Thanks, guys.